Hey guys, and welcome to another video of Terraform. My name is Tia from DevOps Easy Learning, and today we'll be going through what is Terraform. Terraform is just an infrastructure as the code. When we say infrastructure as a code, what does that mean? Usually, let's say if you want to create something in AWS, you have two alternatives, right? Even three alternatives. The first alternative is to go to AWS console, and you can click everywhere and you create a resource through the console. And the second alternative is basically to use the AWS CLI. You can basically you can basically use the AWS CLI to authenticate through AWS API, right? And you can use that to create resource in AWS. And the third option will be to kind of put everything into a single file or maybe multiple file, and you can run that file as a script, and it will go ahead and create the same resource in AWS. Now, what is the pros and cons when you create something through AWS console? First of all, if you are going through AWS console, you are going to create everything, but you will not record that somewhere, right? Let's say tomorrow I ask you, tell me exactly what is in AWS. How do you configure everything? You will not be able to kind of let me know what you did, right? Let's say if you have everything written in terms of code and it is in one file, which means you can go ahead and check that file later on, and you are going to know exactly what happened in AWS, right? Let us take this scenario here. Let's say at work, you have a scenario here to create the dev environment, the QA, the staging, production, and also a disaster recovery environment, for instance. Now, through AWS console, it can take admin 1 5 days to create this environment and configure. The QA environment, the same thing. The staging environment, the same thing. Production, the same thing. And the disaster recovery is the same thing. Now, in total here, we have 25 days to create 5 environments. And if you want to delete or decommission all this environment, you need to think carefully. Why? Because in Terraform, in AWS, we have something called dependency, right? Like, let's say you create an EC2 instance and you attach a VPC security group and also an Elastic IP. You cannot just go ahead and try to delete the security group. Why? Because it is already attached to an instance, which means you need to shut down that EC2 instance first. The same thing applies if you want to create an EKS cluster. When you create an EKS cluster, you have a node group and so on. And there is no way that you can shut down the control plane without shutting down the node group, which means if you want to destroy something, you need to make sure that you understand the dependency, right? Otherwise, you are going to have a nightmare. Now, that is the second thing. The first thing, you create everything through AWS console. It is going to take time. Now, when you want to also destroy those resources, those are going to take time. Now, let's say tomorrow you even shut it down. You cannot create environment on demand, right? Let's say tomorrow I'd want you to boot up a staging environment within 1 hour or within 20 minutes. Can you do that? The answer is no, because it's still going to take you 5 days to configure that. Now, why don't you write a template, right? That will be able to deploy all this environment on demand. On demand. When I say on demand, that means if you wake up in the morning and say, hey, I want a dev environment, less than 20 minutes, the dev environment is up. And if you wake up in the morning and say, I want you to decommission this dev environment, less than 10 minutes, the dev environment is down. That is where an infrastructure as a code become really, really handy, right? And the purpose of this is what? Instead of going through AWS console and you create a resource manually, you can now put everything into a file and write it, customize that to be a template, right? A template. And that template will have something called value file, where you can change those value according to the environment that you want to deploy. And if you guys are aware of something called Helm will have a specific template and have value file for specific environments, but the template will not change. But the only thing that you can manipulate, it is just a value file based on a specific environment. Terraform also, it is the same. We call that in Terraform also a module. That means you write a module in Terraform, and that module, it is a predefined template that you can use to deploy in any environment that you want. And as soon as you have your template, what happens is that if you ask you to boot up the dev environment, you just need to call that template, and less than 10 to 20 minutes, that environment will be up. And tomorrow, if you ask you to decommission that environment, that's not going to take time, right? And as we can see here, we are taking 25 days to less than an hour to launch all this environment here, which is really, really efficient, right? Here also, dependency issue will be resolved because manually, let's say when we create the environment through AWS console, what happens here is that if we want to create, we need to think about dependency. If we want to destroy, we also need to think about dependency, right? In Terraform, we don't care too much about that because Terraform can manage dependency efficiently when we have all our resources in one folder. At some point, if you want to split all your resources and you don't want to put everything in one folder, yes, at some point, Terraform need help. The good news is that we have a wrapper around Terraform called Terragram that we can use, right, to efficiently manage dependency in Terraform. And if you want to split your infrastructure into chunks so that you will have different state files, that is where Terragram is really, really handy. By using Terragram, you can deploy your resource recursively. Let's say you have 10 directory. Instead of moving into each directory to deploy, you can go ahead now and use Terragram, and Terragram will be able to loop through all those directory and deploy everything recursively. And it can also you can also do the destroy, the same thing. It loop through that and destroy everything recursively, right? And it will make sure that it manage all the dependency. It will make sure that it destroy something that depend on something first, right? You don't have any headache. You don't have to manage anything. And that is why this infrastructure as a code, it is really, really handy. And that is why a lot of company out there start using this, right, to help them speed up the process. Same thing apply with the bash shell script. If you go to the server and you run command to configure a server, what happens is that if tomorrow I ask you the code, you don't have it. If you have 100 server, the same time that the same time that you use to configure the first server, it will be the same thing for every other server, and you are repeating yourself. And in DevOps, please avoid repeating yourself. Make sure that you automate. You have a process that will automate or everything that you want to do, right, to make your life easy. And that is why we have AWS, we have Terraform for cloud. And this Terraform, the good news is that it is multi-cloud, which means you can use Terraform for Azure, for AWS, for Google, and so on. We'll stop here, guys. If you want to keep talking, can have a lot here to say when you have to do with Terraform. If you like this video, please let me know in the comment below. And also, if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and do so. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so on. That's it for this video. Thank you. Bye-bye.